divine. You are the spark. I know what's happening. In your mind, you're going like, yeah, Mike, that might, maybe you, but you don't understand. Here, let me tell you my story. Let me tell you the story about where I was born, and let me tell you about the struggles I'm having now, and let me tell you about why I'm not divine. Guess what? You're wrong. You are wrong. You have the spark of the divine within you. That is more powerful than anything that walks this planet. More powerful than anything. And the only thing that stops you from having that experience is you. Believing those limited beliefs. Believing the thing that's telling you are less than divine. Because of this, that, or the other thing. And so we come together and we have these conversations. We come together, we have these talks. We come together as unity, as a family. Because we're on this journey together, folks. Yes? Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. We started having this conversation a few months ago, and it's been amazing. Being here is just another step in that journey. So a couple of weeks ago, a group of us, some of you that are in this room, got together and we talked about what is that new creation going to look like? What's it going to look like? And so we talked about our purpose, our mission, our vision, and our values. And I want to spend a few minutes talking about that because the experience itself. Can I see a show of hands? How many people were there for that? Yeah, there's a bunch. Was that not one of the coolest things you've ever done? I mean, I've been through that process a lot. And I'm telling you, that was probably the most powerful experience I've ever had doing that with this group of people. It was incredible. And it was incredible because there was a give and the take. There was this flow that happened, this synergy that was created with the group of people that were there that was really magical to be a part of. It was really cool. And Reverend Marty Newman came in and did a masterful job of walking us through this process together. It was just stunning the way we created that together with her guidance. And so let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about the first thing. Our purpose. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? And we had that conversation. And what we came up with collectively is the following. And sorry, we don't have the screens to show you, but it's going to wind up being on our website, and we will wind up printing this so you can see it. But I want you to feel this for just a minute, okay? Our purpose is to demonstrate, facilitate, and support spiritual and personal growth within each other and in our surrounding community. Simple, powerful, and beautiful. Demonstrate, facilitate, and support spiritual and personal growth. Sounds like a pretty cool thing to be a part of. I don't know about you, but I hear that, I get all fired up. Because my entire life and everything that I've done has always been about doing that for myself personally, and then to the best of my ability, showing up and doing it with other people that want to listen to me say a few words here and there. Right? It's powerful. So then let's talk about our vision. The vision, remember, for those of you that weren't there, the vision is the what. What are we wanting to create or make happen? What does that sound like? Our vision, again, I want you to feel this, a world powerfully transformed through a shared spiritual awakening that acknowledges the divinity in all of life. I'm going to read that again. A world powerfully transformed through a shared spiritual awakening that acknowledges the divinity in all of life. Anytime you start talking to me about spiritual awakening, I'm going to get fired up immediately. Why? Because of the process that I've gone through and the process that you are going through. It just is genuinely something within inside of my soul that is our destiny. It is no longer something that we just sit around and talk about and theorize. It's actually an experience of it. And so we're coming together as a spiritual family and we're saying, hey folks, guess what? It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. And that's what it is. And then we go do that. We are transformed through this experience of awakening. And then as a result of it, my own experience has been, then guess what we get to do? We get to go around and we sit there and all we do is reflect back to each other your divinity. How cool is that? Because then all of a sudden you understand and fully realize that, wait a minute, I got this thing inside of me. I think you have that thing inside of you, and this is a pretty cool thing we got going on here. And then we get to share that. We get to share that. And as the saying goes, where two or more are gathered, in the midst I will be. I'm not sure, but I think someone we all kind of know said that somewhere. I'm not, maybe a book or something, I don't know. Right? Then we talked about our vision. What is our vision? The how. How are we going to make that happen? And this is what we came up with on our vision, our mission, excuse me. And it's really super simple, which is why I love it. We're going to teach. We're going to learn. We're going to grow. And we're going to inspire. That's it. If you're waiting for 3 more paragraphs, you're not going to get them. It was so interesting when Reverend Marty was talking about this because we were in the middle of this seminar, this workshop, and she just was randomly threw out this thought about she was working with a hospital. In the hospital, she said she loved their mission because it was so simple. And then she said it was just to teach, to learn, and to grow. And she goes, but we can't do that here. And I was like, why? Why not? That's exactly what we're going to do here. Precisely what we're going to do here. And so, as we started talking about it, you could feel the energy that was going around in the room. And you could hear that's it. It's really, really that simple. We teach, we learn, we grow, we inspire. We could sit there and add a bunch of stuff to it, but I don't think it's really necessary. I think it's pretty straightforward. Right? And then we talked about our values. The principles that help us decide what's right, what's wrong, how to act in various situations. And there's a lot of different values that we could pick, but we came up with 5. So let's talk about those. Number 1, Spirit-led. So in other words, we're tapping into Spirit, we're listening in prayer and meditation, we're connecting with Spirit, so we will be Spirit-led. I think that's a pretty cool thing to have as number 1. How about you? Yeah, we all agreed on that. The second thing we talked about was wanting to be welcoming. So we wanted to make sure that anybody that walks in those doors, we wrap our arms around them, give a big hug, and say, welcome. I think for me, it's really super important to understand that to add to the welcome, that we meet people wherever they are in their spiritual journey. Because I think we would all agree that we're each at a different place on our spiritual journey. And that's okay. It's okay. I don't care if you've never walked here a day in your life. I don't care if this is the first time that you're experiencing a unity message. It's okay. I don't care if you've been here for 40 years or more. I know some of you in the audience have been here longer than that. That's awesome. I don't care where you're at in your spiritual journey. I do care, however, how you are on your spiritual journey. And I think that's one of my jobs here, is to help people that are coming in and identify, where are you and how can I help you get to where you're wanting to go in your own spiritual journey and your own spiritual path. And it's different. It's different for each and every one of us. Some of us are just waking up to some of this stuff. How cool is that? Some of us are wanting to do some deep dives into metaphysical discussions that the Fillmores had and the Fillmores taught. Awesome. Some of us just like reading the daily word. That's enough. Very cool. Some of us want to do deep dives and go into meditation and go into prayer and spend a lot of time with Spirit, and I think that is wonderful and beautiful. But the truth is, I think they're all wonderful and beautiful. I think your spiritual journey is your spiritual journey. I think that's to be honored. I think that's something we should acknowledge within each and every one of us. I think we should appreciate the fact that it's different. I made a statement last week, and I said, if you're looking for the box, if you're looking for the instructions, you are in the wrong place. I want to blow up the box, and I want to burn the instructions. Do you know why I want to do that? You know what the truth is? The truth is, there is no box. And the truth is, your instructions are not anywhere out there. Nowhere out there. They're right here. That's where your instructions are. And if there's anything I can do to help you understand that and to realize the keys to the kingdom are within you. They are within you. And what's going to get you on your spiritual journey is not the same as it is for me or anybody else. I promise you, if Jesus was down here right now, I promise you, if the Fillmores was down here right now, they would all say the same thing. Go within. All your answers are within. If you really listen to Jesus' message, he did not say, do exactly what I did. Look at me. Look at everything that I did. He was trying to teach you the lesson about going within. That's what he was trying to say. That's what he was trying to teach us. And yet that message has, well, you know what they've done to that message. And yet, it's still there. The truth is the truth. The truth can't be hidden. The truth doesn't go away. Everything that you want, your answers to your own divinity lie within you. And if you'll spend just a little bit of time in prayer, a little bit of time in meditation, a little bit of time practicing these spiritual principles, this connection, this power, this experience of your divinity will continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. And then it just becomes a big party. And then you can have the ups and downs in life happen and not get blown off course. Look, I'm not going to sit there and tell you stuff isn't going to happen when you start practicing this stuff. It certainly didn't happen in my life just because I started practicing this stuff. Believe me, we could sit here and have conversations about stuff just like if I had conversations with each and every one of you, you could tell me some pretty intense stories that you've gone through in your life. We all have them. It's kind of like the shared experience of being a human being, right? And yet, even through all of it, there is this presence, there is this peace, there is a way. And that's really what I have been able to see lately in my own spiritual journey. No matter what, every single time I think there isn't a way, I realize there is a way. So I don't care what I'm trying to figure out. I don't care if I'm trying to figure out how on God's green earth in 2 weeks are we going to redo our entire house and get it ready to be sold. We figured it out. How on God's green earth are we going to sell one church? Or wait a minute, let me back up. How are we going to think about having a conversation about combining congregations? How are we going to sell one church and then move into another church and then go look at buying another church and then rehabbing all that church? How is all of that going to happen? How is that even possible? And I feel like God's sitting over my shoulder just smiling, saying, it's really easy. The truth is, it's really easy, Mike. All you need to do is remember who you are. All you have to do is remember who I am. All you have to remember is to connect. And when you connect, you'll have access to stuff beyond comprehension. When we stay connected, when we stay in alignment, when we do these spiritual principles that I keep talking about, you leave yourself connected and open to possibility. Deepak Chopra would say, infinite possibility in every single moment is your potential. But what happens is we forget who and what we are. We want to have an argument with people and tell everybody how human you are, how flawed you are, how wrong you are, how shamed you are, what a lousy job you are doing at being a human being. We're convinced of that. We're convinced of that. But yet when I tell you you're innocent, when I tell you you're beautiful, when I tell you you're divine, when I tell you you're amazing, whoa. There's kind of like this pushback thing that happens. And that's okay. That's okay. Because that's part of the spiritual journey. That's part of the spiritual awakening. I tell you this all the time. I use this analogy. In my own spiritual journey, what happens is I walk up to the edge of the water, I stick my toe out, then I pull it out really quick, and then I sit there for a few minutes on the side of the water, and then think, okay, and then I stick my toe in a little bit further, and then pull it out really fast, and then I continue to shove my foot in the water until my foot eventually gets in the water, and then so on and so forth. Eventually, like I'm in. Didn't happen like that originally, though, not even close. And my belief is that we all have a similar journey. And what I mean by that is we kind of play with it, and then we got to take a breather. And then we kind of got to play with it, and then we got to take a breather. And then we got to play with it, and then we take a breather. That's been my experience. That's been my experience. Right? These principles, these values, these mission, these things that we're going to do together as a combined family are the things that are going to make us or they're going to break us. All of these things will come into fruition. And whatever it is that we as a family decide we want to create will happen. And we're going to spend time over the next 6 months and figure out after we get through this crazy move that we're going through, we're going to sit down there and talk about what is it that we want to create. What does the future look like for this thing called Unity in Grand Rapids, or whatever we're going to call it? That's the next thing on the agenda. What are we going to call ourselves? We'll talk about that in a minute. But what is it that we're wanting to create? And how does that look? But I just want to remind you this morning that if we don't practice our spiritual principles, none of it is going to matter. None of it. And that's where I'm coming from with the standpoint of like, it's great to have these thoughts. It's great to read the books. It's great to figure out all these teachings. But if you're not practicing it, if you're not embodying it, then what's the point? I mean, the truth is then you're just looking for spiritual entertainment. Which, honestly, if that's what you want, I think that's beautiful. But as long as I'm up here, I'm going to push you. I'm going to nudge you. And I'm going to tell you there's a whole nother experience that the Fillmores talked about and Jesus was talking about, and it went beyond words. It went to the experience. And for me in my life and everything that I want to have, I want the experience of the divine way more than I want the understanding of the divine. And I'm going to encourage everybody to at least think about that, to at least entertain that thought. Right? Because these spiritual principles that we have, if you think about it, they're just like any other tool. The most amazing thing about tools is they're really effective when you use them. But if you don't use them, you lose the impact. I look at it like anything else. If Ray were to quit playing the piano today, within a short amount of time, his skill set would start to diminish. And over time, he'd eventually lose that skill set. Just the way it would work. Not that Ray would ever do that, but I'm just saying. That's what would happen. Same thing with these spiritual principles. Learn them. Start practicing them. Start using them. And watch how powerful they become. It reminds me of just sharpening the tools, using them, and then they will become more and more and more powerful for you in your own life. Right? I want to share one of those principles with you about a story, and it's about a principle that we often don't talk about. Once upon a time, two brothers who lived on an adjoining farm fell into conflict. It was the first serious rift in 40 years of farming and trading labor and goods as needed without a hitch. Then a long collaboration fell apart. It began with a small misunderstanding and it grew into a major difference. And finally, it exploded into an exchange of bitter words followed by weeks of silence. One morning, there was a knock on John's door. He opened it to find a man with a carpenter's toolbox. "I'm looking for a few days of work," he said. "Perhaps you would have a few small jobs here and there I could help with. Could I help you?" "Yes," said the older brother, "I do have a job for you. Look across the creek at that farm. That's my neighbor. In fact, it's my younger brother. Last week there was a meadow between us, and he took his bulldozer to the river levee, and now there is a creek between us. Well, he may have done this to spite me, but I'll get him one better. See that pile of lumber by the barn? I want you to build me a fence, an 8-foot fence, so I won't need to see his place or his face anymore." The carpenter said, "I think I understand the situation. Show me the nails and the post hole digger, and I'll be able to do the job that pleases you." The older brother had to go to town, so he helped the carpenter get the materials ready, and then he was off for the day. The carpenter worked hard all day, measuring, sawing, nailing, and hammering. About sunset, the farmer returned. The carpenter had just finished his job. The farmer's eyes wide open and his jaw dropped. There was no fence there at all. It was a bridge stretching from one side of the creek to the other. A fine piece of work, handrails and all, and the neighbor, his younger brother, was coming across, his hand outstretched. "You are quite a fellow to build this bridge, after all I've said and done." The two brothers stood at each end of the bridge, and then they met in the middle, taking each other's hands. They turned to see the carpenter hoist his toolbox on his shoulder. "No, wait, stay a few days. I've a lot of other projects for you," said the older brother. "I'd love to stay on," the carpenter said, "but I have many more bridges to build." A spiritual principle called bridge building. We don't often hear about it. When we think about unity, we think about the 12 powers and we think about all that stuff. And yet I will tell you, one of the most powerful spiritual tools in your tool belt is bridge building, not fence building. But you know what? It's a mindset. It's a mindset that you have to have. It's something that you've got to remember. And let's just get real. It's not always easy to remember this. It's not. But when you sit down as a family and you come together and you come up with ideas and you come up with your purpose, your mission, your vision, your values, and you say, this is what's important to us as a spiritual family, then all of a sudden we've got a direction. We've got a way of doing it. And as long as we continue to practice these principles, then we will succeed. But when we forget, or when we fall down, or when we decide you don't want to practice it because, after all, your opinion is the most important opinion than anything else, and if we won't do exactly what it is that you think, then we're no longer following what we have agreed to as are going to be our guiding north, our true north. In other words, we're letting go of the spiritual principles we said that we were going to practice. And as you can see by the parable, we could go out and build a fence, or we can go out and build a bridge. Which one do we want to build? What I'm seeing in so many ways is what an amazing job this spiritual family, is doing. I mean, you think about the last 6 to 9 months, everything that we've been through. Oh my God, there's so much uncertainty. There's so many things to figure out. There's so many decisions that need to be made. And it's not always been easy. But in my opinion, based on all the conversations I've had with you folks, all the meetings we've been through, the big picture, I really think we've done an amazing job. And I really would love us to applaud each other in a job well done. Great job, everybody. Everybody. Yeah. Now, does that mean it's been perfect? No. Does that mean that there haven't been some bumps here and there? No. Does that mean that we haven't had differences of opinion? Of course we have. It does mean that. But when you look at everything that we're trying to do, everything that we've talked about, we're really doing a good job. And the reason we're doing a good job, in my opinion, is because we're staying focused. We're realizing that, hey, we're trying to do something here that isn't easy. It's not. I talk to people around the country that are in unity, and they're looking at us and they hear our story and they're like, you know, you got people way up the ladder are checking out what you folks are up to, right? And I say that very humbly. We say that very humbly, because what we're trying to do is not very common. In fact, it's not. My belief is the reason we're doing it so successfully is because we are remembering to use the spiritual principles that we've been taught most of the time. That's my belief. And I'm going to continue to hold that belief. I'm going to continue to hold that vision. And I'm going to encourage you to do the same exact thing as we move forward. So what I'd like to do now is, speaking of how we want to do this and what we want it to look like, I'm going to take us through a very short meditation where you get to step into your own power, your own creativity, your own fun, and we get to decide as a spiritual family what we want the future to look like. So Ray, if I could have you, thank you. And so as we relax into our chairs, I always love to start the meditation with a deep breath in and then to let it out. And then take another deep breath in, let it out, and one more. Deep breath in, let it out. And I just want you to tell your body that it's time to relax. Relax your body. If you need to wiggle your butt or wiggle your toes or your fingers or whatever, just tell your body it's time to relax for a few moments. And the same thing with your mind. Just tell your mind it's time to relax for a few moments. It's done a great job getting you here, but now it's time to relax. Relax, relax, relax. Relax your body, relax your mind. And now what I want you to do is just to connect. If you want to, maybe put your hands over your heart. Connect with yourself. Hi, self. How are you? Sometimes it can be so beautiful just to remember to connect with yourself, because we often forget. And as your heart fills with love, I want you to imagine connecting with Spirit, with God, with one. Wherever your heart or your mind takes you is fine. You cannot goof this up. Just relax. And then to take this one step further, I want you to imagine connecting with each other. Just imagine your bubble of light growing bigger and bigger, and finally we start to connect with each other. And then what I want you to do is I just want you to imagine what tomorrow will bring in terms of us coming together, in terms of the future. I want you to become childlike. I don't want you to put any limits on it. I want you to imagine children. I want you to imagine adults. I want you to imagine healing. I want you to imagine expansion. I want you to understand and feel what it could be like to really stand in that place of that kind of power, because you do have it. And so paint your picture. What does it look like? And how can you engage in this process of creating this future? Don't put any limits on yourself. Don't put any limits on what it is that we're going to create together. Dream big. Dream bold. Dream courageously. Use your divine creativity. And just understand that you are part of this. We are a part of this. We are doing this together with Spirit. And now what I want you to do before we close this up, I want you to imagine within your heart is the biggest ball of love you've ever felt. It's this pink light inside of your heart. And what I want you to do is imagine that light getting bigger. It encompasses your body. And then we come together as one. And now what I want you to do is we're going to take that same energy that we just created, this future that we're building, but I want you to take that same love, that same compassion, that same vision, and I want you to send it to the Ukraine and to Russia. I don't want you to think about what's going on today. I want you to think about what your prayer is for the people in Ukraine and in Russia. Is it peace? Is it forgiveness? Is it love? Is it compassion? What is your prayer for those two countries? Hold them in your heart. Hold them in your vision. Think about what could possibly be, not about what is. And then when you're ready, I want you to slowly start coming back to the room. And then we come together in song.